Yeah, and Miriam and I met at Cornell quite a while ago, and over the course of our friendship, we lived together for roughly 6 years, which is quite a long time. The last 3 of those years were spent in DC, and I had the privilege of watching Miriam and Paul's relationship develop. From watching Jamie get ready to go to the Hirshhorn Museum to meet Paul for the first time, to approximately 2.5 years later when Paul told me that he was going to propose to Miriam in the exact same place. Now, at Miriam's bridal shower, we played a game where Miriam had to guess how Paul had answered a series of questions. And one of the questions was, who would Paul say is his best friend? And without hesitation, instinctively, Miriam responded, me! And she was spot on. That is exactly how Paul had answered the question. How awesome. How awesome to be in love with your best friend and get to spend forever together. I wish you a lifetime of happiness. I love you both. Mwah. Sorry. To the happy couple, cheers.
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Molly Christ, and I'm Miriam's maid of honor, which is, as it's called, such an honor. What a gorgeous, gorgeous day and such a special evening. When I think about this wedding, it's not really about the gorgeous landscaping and the oysters and the hairdos, though they're all some of my favorite things, but really about these two families coming together. And in order to really honor that moment, I have 3 toasts, not 1. So the first one is to all of us. We are so lucky that everyone in this room, we have Miriam and Paul in our lives, and that is totally something to celebrate. Also, Tomek already mentioned it, but we do have 15 guests who are part of the Jaziak family from Europe who came for the wedding. And we have 5 Korean guests from Paul's family who came from Korea for their first international trip to come celebrate this wedding. So let's cheers to us. Cheers. And then my second toast, and maybe the most important, is to Grażyna and Tomek. Where are they? There they are. Yeah. I really have so much respect for the amazing life they've created here for Miriam, as well as the amazing person they've created. I think Paul, myself, and a lot of us in this room are really, really grateful. But yeah, Mr. Kim mentioned that they immigrated from Poland. Miriam moved here when she was just over 1 year old, about 3 months before the fall of the Berlin Wall. And I just think they've put so much love into their family and into Miriam. So cheers to them. Cheers. And then, of course, also to the bride and groom. So Miriam and I met orientation week of Cornell when we were walking to a party with some new friends, as one does during orientation week at college. And we looked across the street, and I was like, hey, do you know how to get to wherever? And she was going there, too. So she helped me get there, which is a common theme, because I'm very bad at directions. But then she also said to me, we should be friends. You should be hanging out with me. And I was like, yeah, I should. And there's just always been something really special and unique about our friendship that is really hard to describe, and I've had a hard time trying to put it into words, but sometimes I look at Miriam and I feel like I'm like looking in the mirror. It's so familiar and comfortable and so much love. So I'm like, cheers to you and our friendship, and I'm so happy to be here. I also was with Miriam at the Hirshhorn Museum in DC the night that she and Paul met, and I really liked Paul. He had a great first impression, minus the flat tire, but a really good first impression. Yeah, we'll talk about that later. And it's just been so fun to get to know him over the past 4 years and see his talent. And he's so smart and charismatic, but most of all, he's just really in love with my best friend, which makes me really happy. So cheers to you guys, and I can't wait for the rest of your lives together.
Okay. Wow, I'm actually a little nervous here. I'm like, what do you say to entertain the guy who entertains all of us? But anyway, my name is E-Ray. I've known Paul for about 20 years now, which I think says a lot, mostly that we're old. But, that aside, I wanted to think a little bit about all the various stories I wanted to share, and all the memories that we've shared, No, it's all the good stuff, like panhandling and Columbus Circle, staying over and sleeping in Central Park, things like that. Very normal things that people do when growing up. But then, I also thought about, like, what were some of the great traits that Paul has, and I could tell stories about those, like how he loves to laugh so much that, we'd stay up all night watching stand-up, even though he has 2 broken ribs and it hurts to laugh. Or another really great example of, like, how Paul is so loyal to me that he would sacrifice himself and his freedom to save me from jail and, a whole life of crime. And that is actually a true story. So, I'm forever grateful for that. Okay, but, the thing about it is, like, I have a lot of other stories, but everyone here also has stories with Paul, too. And I think that's really what's special about Paul. He's that friend that everyone really wishes they have, but we're lucky enough to actually have him in our life. He's the guy, he's the, the star of the show, the center of attention, and he's the guy who makes everyone's life a little bit happier, a little bit more fun, and a little bit more musical, or a lot more musical, and, and more often than not. And I think that, having known him for so long, it's been really great, not just seeing that side of him, but also kind of seeing the loving and caring side of him, him helping out his friends, but also showing his vulnerability and asking for help from us. And we're always happy to give it, and he always returns it with that same generosity and that same selflessness. So it's been really kind of awesome to see. But, I did say that I would tell at least one story. And so the one story that I will tell, actually, is, it actually is one of the more kind of simple stories. It started off like any other time that we hung out. There's frisbees in the air, beers in hands, a couple of books just to pass the time. But during that time, he just decided to go and tell me about a girl that he had recently met, someone who's, smart and caring and beautiful and really motivated. And the thing about it was different. Like right there from that first day, that is like, wow, she seems pretty excited. He seems pretty serious about that. And obviously, that girl was you, Miriam. It's like, yeah, I know. And 3 weeks later, then, no. And so I'm really happy that Paul was able to meet someone like you, someone that could keep up with him, but really just push him and grow and kind of be better. And so, I'm really excited for your futures together, hopefully spider-free, and hopefully in New York City. And so I wanted just to, everyone to raise a glass to love and to laughter and a happily ever after to Paul and Miriam.
Okay, guys, I get to go last. And I have to tell you, when Paul called me and asked me to do a toast, I was like, how do I write a toast for the Toastmaster? This is impossible. Like, what am I going to do? But then I realized, Paul and Miriam, they give you a lot of material to work with. Right? They really do. So I was trying to think, what am I going to talk about? Am I going to be funny? Am I going to be sad? I don't know. And the thing that came to me is thinking about what it means to be the best self that you can for the other person in the relationship. And, I thought to myself, we all live these really intense, busy lives. You two guys work really hard. Everybody I know here is working their butts off. It's really easy to let the stress, to let the anxiety, to let the whole day bowl you over. You come home and that person who's so important to you, there isn't that much of yourself left for that person. But what I want to remind you guys is that you guys need to save the best part of yourself, not the surface stuff, the really your core, the part that you're most proud of, the part that makes you most creative and most bold and most dynamic. I want you to save that for the other person. You have to be your best self, not just for you to be happy, but because that other person that you're with, they really deserve it. So when I look at the two of you, I think, oh, Paul doesn't just owe this to Miriam. Miriam's really earned it, and it's vice versa. So I want to toast you guys. I want to remind you to every day of your life to save a little bit of what's most important to you for that other person, because Paul, Miriam, nobody else is as big a champion for you as the other person that you're marrying. So I know this sounds like really hard. It sounds like that's a lot of work, like, oh, I got to go home and really focus. But, being your best self, it's just what you guys already are, which is creative, which is bold, which is exciting, which is driven by values and conviction and morals. You guys got to channel that. Channel it. Bring it home every day. Think about, I'm not going to leave the best part of myself at work. I'm going to bring it home for Miriam. And Miriam's going to bring it home for Paul. And the reason I say this is because you guys have touched my life. And I bet just looking around the room, probably a lot of people have been touched by Paul and Miriam. They've been there at a critical moment. They've helped you through something. They've helped you see something in a different way. And you guys owe that to so many other people in the world need that. So many other people in the world need that, but nobody more than the person who you're marrying. So if you agree with me and you want these guys to bring their best for each other, but also for all of us, raise your glass. Raise it high. Make sure that there's something in it. And hey, let's drink to see what the next 50, 60, 80 years of these two develops. Cheers to Paul and Miriam.